You know you're going to die. Not right now, probably not soon, but somewhere in the back of your mind, that fact just sits there, quietly, waiting. And here's the thing, you've known it since you were a kid. You didn't have to be taught it, you just figured it out. Now, here's the question nobody actually asks. Do animals know it too? Not in a vague, poetic sense. I mean, literally, does a crow understand that one day it will stop existing? Does an elephant grieve because it knows death is coming for all of them? Or are we just projecting our own existential baggage onto creatures that are simply reacting? The answer is not what you think, and it changes completely depending on which animal you're asking. Let's start with what knowing actually requires. To know you're going to die, you need a few things working at the same time. You need a concept of self, an understanding that you exist as a separate entity in the world. You need a concept of time, that there is a future and that future ends. And you need the ability to connect those two ideas into one uncomfortable thought. That's a lot. Most animals, we assume, can't do all three. But here's where it gets interesting, because some of them are doing things that look a lot like they can. Take elephants. When an elephant in a herd dies, the others don't just walk away. They stop. They gather around the body. They touch it with their trunks, gently, slowly, like they're trying to understand what happened. They've been observed carrying bones of dead relatives for miles, returning to the same spot where a family member died, years later, with no obvious reason to be there. That's not instinct in the way we usually mean it. Instinct doesn't revisit grave sites. Instinct doesn't carry bones. Something else is happening. We just don't have a clean word for it that doesn't sound like we're giving them too much credit. Crows are stranger. When a crow dies, other crows gather around it, not to mourn exactly, but to investigate. Researchers found that crows will avoid a location for weeks after seeing a dead crow there. They remember. They associate that place with danger, with death. And crows remember faces. If a crow sees you near a dead crow, it will remember your face. It will warn other crows about you. It will pass that information down to crows that weren't even there. So crows don't just react to death. They learn from it. They build social knowledge around it. They treat it as information worth keeping. That's not nothing. Chimpanzees go further. There are documented cases of chimp mothers carrying their dead infants for days, sometimes weeks, grooming them, returning to check on them, sitting with them in silence. Scientists debate what this means. Is it grief? Is it confusion? Is the mother's brain simply unable to process the absence of something that was always there? Maybe. But chimpanzees also pass the mirror test. They recognize themselves in a reflection, which means they have some concept of self, which means they have one of the three things you need to understand death. They know they exist. The question is whether they know that existing has an expiration date. Now let's go somewhere weirder. A mayfly lives for one day, sometimes less. It hatches, mates, lays eggs, and dies, all within 24 hours. It has no time to learn anything, no time to form memories, no time to look around and think about what comes next. Does a mayfly know it's going to die? The question almost doesn't make sense. The mayfly doesn't know anything in the way we mean it. It operates entirely on chemical signals and biological programming. There is no inner experience sitting behind its eyes, processing the situation. And yet, it completes its entire purpose before it dies. It does exactly what it needs to do, perfectly, every time, without knowing, without worrying, without any of the three things we said you need. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The jellyfish Turritopsis dohrnii, the so-called immortal jellyfish, can revert back to its juvenile form when it gets old or damaged. It essentially hits reset. It cycles back to the beginning and starts again. It doesn't die, not naturally, not on a timer. So what does death mean to a creature that doesn't have one? And more importantly, what does it mean that this creature exists at all? That evolution produced something capable of escaping the thing every other living organism is built around? Death isn't just something that happens to living things. Death is part of the design. The mayfly dies so the next generation can exist. The crow learns from death so its flock survives. The elephant returns to old bones because memory and loss might hold the herd together. Death, it turns out, is one of evolution's most useful tools. So back to the original question. Do animals know they're going to die? Some of them, the elephants, the chimps, maybe the crows, seem to understand death as something real, something that happens, something worth responding to. Whether they connect that to their own future is something we genuinely cannot answer yet. The science isn't there. The language barrier is absolute. But here's the thing that stays with me. You know you're going to die. You have known it for years. That knowledge sits in your brain every single day. And what do you do with it? Mostly, you ignore it. You get on with things. You make coffee and check your phone and plan for next week as if next week is guaranteed. The mayfly doesn't know it's going to die, and it still does everything it needs to do perfectly. Maybe the question isn't whether knowing makes you smarter. Maybe the question is whether knowing actually helps.